Hi, everybody, and welcome to our first Wellness Wednesday webinar of the 2017-2018 school year. Today, we are going to talk about pumping up physical education, how to get sweaty with moderate to vigorous physical activity. My name is Hannah Laughlin. I am the Director of Field Operations here at Action for Healthy Kids. And I have the pleasure today of being joined by Michelle Carter, who is a Senior Program Manager at Shape America. I also want to thank Heidi Milby, who is from Action for Healthy Kids, who's going to be answering questions on the back end today. So you won't hear from her, but you might get a response from her. So while we're talking about that, let's review some logistics before we get started. Once you're logged in, you're going to see a control panel. It's usually on the right side of your screen. And you can use your telephone or your speakers to listen to the presentation, but everyone is muted today just to avoid static and background noise. There is a dialog box, however, at the bottom of the control panel. So you can type any questions that you have into that box as we're going along, and we'll get them answered later in the presentation at the very end, or we'll follow up via email if we're not able to get to them all. This webinar is being recorded, and links to the recording and the handouts will be sent to you tomorrow. So no need for you to take a bunch of notes wildly or anything like that. You will get these slides. So to get started, I just would like to give you a little bit of background information on Action for Healthy Kids. Action for Healthy Kids fights childhood obesity, undernourishment, and physical activity in schools to become healthier, to make schools become healthier places. We are moms, dads, teachers, students, schools, and community leaders who have banded together to create healthier learning environments for our children. We believe that everyone has a part to play in ending our nation's childhood obesity epidemic, and our programs, tools, and resources are there to help make that possible. Action for Healthy Kids works to mobilize school professionals, families, and communities to take actions that lead to healthy eating, physical activity, and healthier schools where kids thrive. We really believe in a world in which every kid is healthy, active, and ready to learn. We were founded in 2002 by former Surgeon General David Satcher, and today we have more than 130,000 members. We also partner with dozens of professional organizations, government agencies, and corporations at the national and local level, much like Shape America, who we are so happy to have with us today to get our work accomplished. And our work is centered off of the Learning Connection, which is a great resource from Action for Healthy Kids to help you make the connection between physical activity, healthy eating, and learning, right? Learning is what schools care most about. It's an easy-to-read special report that summarizes the recent research proving that healthy kids really are better learners. The research shows that physical activity, what we're going to talk about today, has a positive impact on academic achievement. It leads to more focused classroom behaviors like concentration and memory, and is related to improved math, reading, and writing scores. At Action for Healthy Kids, our signature program is Game On. It's a free online resource that you can use and tailor for your own school's particular needs. Game On is a program that helps schools practice good nutrition and physical activity habits with the ultimate goal of getting your school nationally recognized as a health-promoting school. Basically saying you're doing all the right things to keep kids in your school healthy. Our Game On program is organized into 6 steps. And these 6 steps help guide your school in creating sound and sustainable school wellness activities through this 6-step framework. The first step is gather your team, which focuses on creating a school health team. Step 2 is assessing and tracking progress, focusing on completing an assessment like the School Health Index to determine your strengths and area of opportunity around school wellness. Step 3 is create and implement an action plan, which focuses on a clear roadmap for your school's wellness initiatives. Step 4, which is what we're going to talk about mainly today, is about finding activities and ways to make sure that students in your school are eating better and moving more. We have over 80 fun and easy to use activities within those 2 categories, and they're organized by room within the school building. So today we're talking about moderate to vigorous physical education, which could be found in the gymnasium room. Step 5 is to engage families and communities to focus on how external partners can help sustain your programming, especially volunteers. And then step 6 is focused on recognition to make sure that your school can celebrate and be recognized for all the hard work you're doing around wellness, as it does for other things related to education. And one of those certification programs and award that we work with here at Action for Healthy Kids is the Healthier U.S. Schools Challenge. The initiative recognizes schools that have created healthy school environments through nutrition and physical activity. And schools can apply for this initiative, and when they're awarded, there's a cash prize that comes with it as well, depending on the level of reward that you receive. There are also a whole host of other benefits, some of which you can see here listed on the screen. And Action for Healthy Kids staff across the country can help you complete this application. We want you to get this award because we want to help cement your school's wellness identity, which can help be used as a marketing tool for your school. And any positive recognition that your school receives is likely to leave your school community wanting more. So when you put all that energy and effort into health and wellness initiatives in your school, it's always nice to get an award to recognize that. But back to today's webinar. In today's webinar, we're going to talk about ways to pump up your physical education class to make sure you're including more moderate to vigorous activity. Do you want to see your kids sweat more? Are you looking for the research, recommendations, and strategies about how moderate to vigorous physical activity can be used to ensure that at least half of your class size is class time is maximized? Well, then you've come to the right place today. So physical activity is defined as anything that gets your body moving, and comprehensive school physical activity can include any movement across the school day. But comprehensive school activity plans, which are also known as CPAPs, or CSPAPs, have 5 key components: a high-quality physical education, physical activity during school, physical activity before and after school, and staff involvement, and then family and community engagement. So today we have Michelle Carter joining us from Shape America, who's really going to talk about what Shape America, the Society of Health and Physical Educators, believes are the best practices for increasing moderate to vigorous physical activity. We're really happy to have us here. She's been a great partner to Action for Healthy Kids and is a former health and physical education teacher herself. So she is quite the expert. So thank you and welcome, Michelle.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be on this webinar today. So thank you, Hannah, for that great introduction. I'm Michelle Carter. As Hannah said, I'm a senior program manager at Shape America, and I work really closely with physical education and physical activity at Shape America. And as Hannah mentioned, I'm a former health and physical education teacher as well. So I just want to give a little bit of background information about Shape America. So Shape America is also known as the Society of Health and Physical Educators, and it's the nation's largest membership organization for health and PE professionals. And since being founded in 1885, the organization has defined excellence in physical education, and our national standards for K-12 PE serve as a foundation for well-designed physical education programs across the country. And so that's one of our things that we're really proud about, is national standards and grade level outcomes really define what a health and PE teacher or a PE teacher should be teaching. We provide programs and resources to support health and physical educators at every level and work to make a positive impact on school health and physical education through state and national advocacy efforts. And our moonshot goal is to reach every one of the roughly 50 million students enrolled in schools around the United States through effective health and physical education. And this commitment is called 50 million strong by 2029. So currently, despite our best efforts to date, students are growing increasingly more sedentary, and we kind of call them what we call the couch zombies. So kids are spending extensive time engaging in sedentary behaviors such as watching TV, playing video games, and other screen time. It's an alarming trend. Physical inactivity increases the risk of developing cardiovascular diseases, type 2 diabetes, hypertension, obesity, certain cancers, depression, and premature death. And you can see some of the figures up on the screen. Physical activity and exercise are foundations for prevention of chronic diseases and vital to a healthy lifestyle. Physical education has an important role to play in combating physical inactivity through increasing moderate to vigorous physical activity during class time. And so really educating, I think it's important to educate administrators and other teachers within your school about physical education and the role that it plays. It's not just about physical activity, but it's also that important component. Physical education is the foundation of all of that within the school and within the CSPAP, as Hannah mentioned earlier. So the physical activity guidelines for Americans recommend that children and adolescents participate in at least 60 minutes of moderate to vigorous physical activity daily in order to attain health benefits. To help reach this goal, it's recommended students be engaged in moderate to vigorous physical activity, and I'm just going to say MVPA moving forward, for at least 50% of the class time in PE. Unfortunately, studies show that while days that students have PE are more active than the days when they don't have PE, PE is still insufficiently active. And so during this webinar, I'm going to help identify strategies to help increase MVPA in your class. So strategies that help you can increase MVPA. So first, what is moderate to vigorous physical activity? So moderate physical activity refers to activities that are equivalent in intensity to brisk walking or bicycling. Essentially, you're able to hold a conversation and you feel like you can exercise at this intensity for a long time. So again, like walking, biking. Vigorous physical activities produce large increases in breathing or heart rate, such as jogging, swimming, aerobic dance, or bicycling uphill. You may feel short of breath and can only speak one sentence at a time. You also feel like you are on the verge of becoming uncomfortable. So I'm sure a majority of you probably already know this, but it's important to teach your students what moderate and vigorous activities are. It's also especially important to have them be able to distinguish what moderate and vigorous activities feel like. Not all students are at the same ability level, so focusing on how they feel versus the kinds of activities they're engaging in is more inclusive for students. What may feel moderate or vigorous to one person may not feel the same to another student. I recommend hanging a rate of perceived exertion chart somewhere in your gym for students to be able to reference. So I know there's even one floating around on our exchange community, on Shape America's online exchange community. So if you're a Shape America member, you have access to our online community called Exchange, where you can get resources as well too, teacher to teacher.
Oh, Michelle, did we lose you? Heidi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. I think we may have lost Michelle.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll pick up where Michelle left off, and when she comes back, we can turn it back over to her. Increased physical activity can contribute to academic performance, improved attendance, and positive classroom behavior. So increasing MVPA in PE has the greatest potential for increasing health benefits for students as it generates more energy expenditure, contributes to obesity prevention, and muscular and bone development. It also reduces anxiety and stress, improves self-esteem, mood and concentration, and reduces the risk of chronic disease.
Hello. All right, I'm so sorry. For some reason, the computer, I don't know, my phone got disconnected, so I really apologize. So I think the last thing that I was talking about was the rate of perceived exertion chart, which I'll mention later also in the webinar, but this is really helpful if you don't have heart rate monitors, but it helps students stay focused on what intensity level they can be on during activities during class. So the benefits of moderate to vigorous physical activity are obvious, and research tells us this. So there's increased physical activity can contribute to academic performance, improved attendance, and positive classroom behavior. So that's important to share. That's a nice fact to share with your administrators, or they really care about those kinds of things, or even classroom teachers. Increasing MVPA and PE has the greatest potential for increasing health benefits for most students, as it generates more energy expenditure, contributes to obesity prevention and muscular and bone development, reduces anxiety and stress, improves self-esteem, mood and concentration, and reduces the risk of chronic disease. Increasing MPA provides more opportunities to meet other PE goals, such as motor development, increased fitness, skill enhancement, and positive social interactions. And I'm sure most of you can relate, being time is usually an issue for us, for PE teachers, and having students engage in MVPA, 50% of your class time allows them to get the increased health benefits in less time. So you're able to achieve more in terms of health within a less amount of time. So what does increasing MVPA look like in PE? I'm going to go over some broad strategies that you can take back to your classroom and adapt them to suit your students' needs. The foundation, I think what's really important to help increasing MVPA is having strong procedures and routines in place. It may take time in the beginning to really get this down, but teaching these routines and procedures will really save time during the school year. Seamless, or as seamless as possible, we can't always control what's going on in our classroom, are helpful to keep kids active and engaged. Make 50% of your class time your goal, your daily goal. If you think you're doing a great job, or you want to see how much time your students are actually spending in MVPA, half of the time in moderate to vigorous physical activity, time yourself. A lot of us have phones that have a stopwatch feature on them. If you have a stop clock in your gym, you can put it on display, or even just, an old-fashioned, a regular just stopwatch. Every time students are active, just let the clock run, and when activity stops for whatever reason, stop the clock and see how many minutes at the end of a class period that your students were actually active. I think that's really kind of insightful to be able to really actually see how much time students are spent in moderate to vigorous physical activity. And once you do that, reflect on those practices, reflect on what you're doing, and determine ways you can improve your practice to cut down on talking time, or how you can tighten up procedures. If you time yourself, you have a really good idea of the areas that may need improvement. And sometimes they're not always obvious to us. We think we're really meeting this, but timing can really help that. Timing yourself can really give you a realistic picture. Make MVPA a focus of your class. So communicate your goal with your students. So you're making a daily goal, tell them that every day you want them to be as active as possible. Have students know while they are in your class, you want them to move as much as possible. I mentioned in the beginning that it's especially important to have them be able to distinguish what moderate and vigorous activities feel like. Not all students are at the same ability level. Focusing on how they feel is really important. Again, just kind of reiterating that and talking about that chart and kind of giving them somewhere to reference. Where am I? What levels am I at? And communicate the health benefits with them. Why is it important to move? What do they get out of being physically active? What benefits do they feel immediately? And start the class with an instant activity. And this again goes back to that first point that I made with having those strong procedures and routines in place. Have a few instant activities that are your go-tos. Teach them at the beginning of the year that you can just rotate through. So one way to do this is to have like 4 or 5 instant activities on a poster or a bulletin board in your gym somewhere. And when students come in, they already see which instant activity they need to do. And if you laminate it, you can circle it with a dry erase marker, or just put a sticky note. And so I'm just going to give you some examples now about some ways about the chart that I was mentioning earlier. So I made some examples to kind of show you what I'm talking about. So I made a sample poster, infographic poster that can be hung up in a gym. And we'll wait for it to show up. And so this is kind of that rate of perceived exertion chart. And here I kind of made emojis are popular right now with kids. And I kind of just told them where they can be at. And this is a really good reference point to share with your students to use this, especially if you don't have the heart rate monitors. Where are you? You should be at the moderate. Are you vigorous? Is it light? Is it very hard? Are you using your max effort? It's really nice for them to be able to visualize and see what they're feeling. This right here is the chart that I was talking about of instant activities of the day. I just went online. I kind of quickly pulled something together. These are really simple instant activities, so they can go with any lesson, no matter what you're doing that day. And then I put a little star to just kind of like, if students were to see this, they would know that walk and talk is the instant activity that they'll be doing that day. And you can change them or rotate them however you see fit. You don't have to use this every day. If you have another instant activity that's more skill specific, then you can use that too. But this is always a good go-to to have. And then you kind of have it already planned. It makes planning easier as you're going through. And you can change the pictures and kind of make it to suit your needs. And this also helps with students when you have pictures or images. This helps with if you're using the littler kids like kindergartners, they may not know how to read yet, or students who just may have some kind of a disability or need visual accommodation. So more strategies for increasing MVPA and PE are really stick to those small-sided practice tasks. This is something that we really want to do. The smaller the groups are, the better if you have it. And then I know equipment can be sometimes an issue. We may not have enough equipment to accommodate those small ratios. But if you are using the equipment, it should be about 6 to 1, so 6 students to 1 piece of equipment for games and larger group activities, and then 3 students to 1 piece of equipment for skill practice. And so just being a little bit of creative using your space, thinking about your activity setup, it can really help meet MVPA. So on our next slide, I've created a sample of a gym setup of how you can use your space if you don't have a lot of equipment. And so this is very basic graphics. I'm not good with the graphics, but I think you get the image here. So for this one, I had a volleyball lesson in mind. In this diagram, I set up 3 mini volleyball courts using cones and jump ropes between the cones to kind of make a net. And so one half of I have the students playing modified games of volleyball. This gets more students participating while applying skills they have learned during our unit and allows for more success. And to get the sense of a real volleyball game, they can apply rules, etc. And when they're more successful, they get the feel of actually playing a volleyball game versus a student can't serve, and then it becomes a game of just standing there. If you don't have enough volleyballs to accommodate small games, you can also have students do on the other half fitness activities, team building challenges. You could even set up stations, fitness stations. If you do have enough equipment, then they could just be off to the side, maybe even just practicing their skills, or this may even be an opportunity to do some kind of a formal assessment, end of unit assessment with your students. So just to reiterate, to increase MVPA, you want to have these small group tasks, and it keeps some students more engaged. And sometimes in larger groups, students can tend to fly under the radar. So having something small, they're more engaged, they'll be more likely to increase, be active. So just a few more strategies. So smooth transition. So if you really, that goes back to the planning part of it. When planning and setting up, think about the best way to transition students from one activity to another. Trying to go quickly. I know we're running out of time. I want to get some questions in. Especially when using equipment or in groups, you can have the tallest student put equipment away or the oldest student grab equipment. You can have designated areas in your gym space or your teaching space of where equipment pickup and drop off. So having those routines established, kids know where to go. using arrows or markers and showing directions. That's also a very inclusive strategy for students too, which is good to do. Having students get into groups quickly, think about different activities. There's mingle, so just kind of holding up your hands and what fingers you use. One finger means you're working individually. 2 fingers would mean get in groups of 2. 3 fingers would mean get in groups of 3. And practicing those with your students. There's flashcards, so if you want to incorporate something outside, you just have, you have flashcards set up. You can do opposites, so we're working with younger students, tall, short, matching the opposite, big, small, that sort of thing. And one thing that's really helpful increasing moderate to vigorous physical activity is talking concisely and giving brief instructions. Break down instructions, maybe only give 1 or 2 steps at a time, have students practice or complete a task, you pause, give more instruction, and have students come back. This is also another great inclusive strategy. So you may be helping increase MVPA because you're having students be more active, but you're also helping students who have problems with paying attention or understanding instructions as well. So you're kind of killing 2 birds with 1 stone. I know it can be hard at times you want to say a lot and really have the students understand, but try to break down your instruction. And lastly, engage your students. Make it interesting for them. Ask them what they want to do, what kinds of activities they're interested in. Maybe connect with the teachers in their other classes and see what they're doing, see if there's any kind of connection. So sorry about that little snafu with being disconnected, but thank you so much for having me, and I hope some of these strategies are helpful.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Michelle. I know we're near the end of the hour, but we'll take about 2 or 3 minutes worth of questions. Heidi, do we have any?
Yes, we have one question that just came through from Tammy. Are there resources and activities available for preschool or pre-K age children?
So currently, if you look on our website, we do have some early childhood activities that are available. And I can have the link available to give it to Hannah, and she can have it available in the follow-up. But we do have some early childhood activities that can be used for the smaller ones.
Yeah, I saw that on Shape America's website earlier today. I was looking as well. So Tammy, we will be happy to include that in the follow-up email.
And that is actually one of our focus too with Shape America. We want to provide more resources around early childhood, and we're looking to start developing pre-kindergarten physical education standards.
Awesome.
Great, thanks.
Perfect. Heidi, any other questions?
We had a question come in, a couple of questions. Just a quick reminder, the slide presentation will be available for folks that are interested. And then the other question is, can you recommend any brain break links for the classroom? That comes from Mary.
So I know that Go Noodle is a really good place to get some brain breaks to share with teachers and such. So I would probably start there. They have a lot of good resources. I talked about our exchange community too, really kind of working. I know with teaching, sometimes it's a lot of like asking other teachers for what they have. Our online community has a lot of good resources as well, working with other teachers to see what kinds of brain breaks they have. And I'll send some to Hannah as well to include in that follow-up.
And Mary, I know Hannah referenced our Game On program. There's lots of brain break ideas there as well. And if you visit Action for Healthy Kids' Pinterest site, we also have a lot of great ideas and resources there as well. Hannah, those are all the questions that have come in.
Awesome. Well, thank you for everyone for participating in our Wellness Wednesday webinar today. As Heidi just mentioned, we will be sending a follow-up email with the recording and the resources that we mentioned throughout the webinar and during this question time. So in the meantime, please stay up to date with success stories, health tips, physical activity games, volunteer opportunities, and much more from Action for Healthy Kids from following us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, Flickr, and YouTube. And I know Shape America also has a lot of social media outlets as well, so look them up as well. Happy Wednesday to all of you, and I hope it's a healthy, adventurous evening. Thanks. Bye-bye.